Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Homeland Security segment. Over 4 million federal employees have had their data breached. China is the prime suspect. President Obama just released 6 more Gitmo detainees, this time Osama Bin Laden's bodyguards. An Australian official admits that the Islamist State has weapons of mass destruction and are looking to infiltrate Western cities. China hacking 4 million federal employees' data. Why would they want to do that? What do they have to gain from getting access to that information?
Well, I cannot look into the minds of the Chinese, who are very complicated people, but the very fact that they take our intellectual capabilities, our indigenous intellectual knowledge, and grab a hold of it is no surprise. They've been doing it. Nobody is stopping them, and they're going to continue to do it. This is just the way they do business.
But what do they have to gain from getting that information? And there was Social Security numbers, tax release information.
Blackmail?
In what respect?
Well, let's say they find out there's somebody that has been doing things that they shouldn't be doing. You know, a lot of the things like with the Secret Service people and so on, nobody doesn't have something that doesn't complicate things for them. I think that you're going to use that as a leverage for blackmail.
And so they're going to say CIA agent has information.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can actually get Hillary Clinton's emails.
Well, if we hired them to do it, we'd probably get it.
They probably have them.
They probably got them.
They probably do. 4 million federal employees, that's just the beginning of the research that they say has been hacked. What does that mean in terms of national security? If they can get in to the federal employee records, they can get into basically our nuclear codes, or they can get into...
We don't have national security anymore. You're making it sound like something's been taken away that has been protected to the nth degree. We have a government today that is letting things happen that we never even dreamed anybody would even think about letting happen. There's no discipline. There's no order. The speech that was made by Trump said that. He said, we are just running wild, and we are letting this country go down the tubes.
Now, another point. Obama just released 6 pretty hardened terrorists. You don't get to be Osama Bin Laden's bodyguards by being a lackey or a flunky. I mean, you got to be a pretty tough jihadist to be able to make it to that point. He just released them from Guantanamo Bay. At some point, don't the Democrats have to own some responsibility and stop being shameless and step up and actually do something about this?
I think you're naive. You really are, because they are doing exactly what they want to do because they don't want to get involved. This is their president. They don't want to do anything to embarrass him. And I would say there are a lot of elements within the Democratic Party that are not pro-American.
That's a very good point. Now, we both voted for Bush, but
right.
We also were very critical of Bush.
Yes, we were.
And we were very critical about him throughout his presidency, particularly towards the end where he really went off the wagon. But I don't see logical Democrats stepping forward, and that bothers me. How can you be so loyal to be that, I'm not even sure what the word is,
I think
irresponsible?
You see, the Democratic Party has become extreme leftist only because the Republican Party has done nothing to stop them. The Republican Party is... I'm going to make this statement, I'm not a registered Republican anymore. That doesn't mean I don't stand for the same values I always stood for, but when I see the cowardice that's being exhibited in Washington today, I don't want to be identified with it.
By the leadership, specifically.
Leadership and the key people. You made the point early on. They could have taken away the finances of Obamacare. Congress has a power of finance, and the Congress has been, since the last election, it's been a year now, more than a year, that the Republicans have controlled the
And every single one of them that was running for re-election last year stood there and looked at the American people and swore that they were going to do everything they could do to stop the spending, stop Obamacare, stop this lawless president, and they've done nothing. They've done the opposite.
Well, that's why the points that Donald Trump, I think that Donald Trump is in a position where I don't think he expects to get elected, but he's going to be, he's like the guy who's like a preacher who knows he's not going to get anywhere with it, but he wants the world to know what's really happening. And I think he's getting the publicity now and getting the word out as to how he really feels about the degradation of the politics and the politicians of this country, which are being destroyed by special interests, whether they're unions or whether they're working with major wealthy owners of different companies.
Or the Chamber of Commerce.
Or the Chamber of Commerce, exactly, who are making huge amounts of money, and consequently they don't want to, they're more interested in maintaining the status quo than starting to clean up the act.
Speaking of Homeland Security, or lack of Homeland Security, an Australian official has warned that the Islamic State has weapons of mass destruction, is looking to infiltrate Western cities, and that's the thing that really scares me, is that our wide open border is prime for allowing something like this to happen. What's your thoughts?
Well, as long as it's not happening, I guess it's okay. When I hear this, I'm just hoping and praying it won't happen. But I don't see anybody standing up and taking resolute action to make sure it doesn't happen. We have gotten so soft since 9/11. I think we're worse off today than we were before 9/11.
Oh, there's no question about it.
The last 6 years of this president have destroyed a lot of the infrastructure of security that this country had, and I blame, obviously, I blame his predecessor a lot for creating the antagonism that allowed this man to win the election. But since that time, we have come down so far that we're living right now in a nation where everybody does the best they can for themselves, and there is no focal point of working together.
And you take that upon the recent anti-cop movement, the actual fanning of the flames of resistance to the police and to law and order, and we are just really
the police are becoming a victim when Sharpton, who's one of the most despicable human beings in this country today, has the audacity to say we should have a national police. I saw a national police. It was called the Gestapo, reporting to Hitler personally.
Well, what they're doing is they're going into these departments and they're telling them, here's the federal guidelines. They hand them a book and they say, this is how you're going to police. This is what you're going to do. And basically they are taking over the police department.
And look what's happening now in places like New York, which were cleaned up by Giuliani. And
Chicago, Baltimore.
Well, Chicago, I'm glad I don't live there anymore. I'd be scared to death walking the streets at night.
And you look at New York City, like we were just talking about, the decline of New York City has been remarkable. Back when Dinkins was running it as mayor, you couldn't walk down the street during the daytime. Now we're almost back to that same spot. And de Blasio is about as big of an anti-cop mayor as you could find out there.
He's a weirdo. He's a German. And he poses as an Italian, but he's a German. The guy's a weird guy, too.
Yeah, and his name isn't even Bill de Blasio. It's something else. We'll get to that later. Yeah. We need to take a short pause. Our political insider and moment in history are on deck. Again, if you miss any segments, just go to theworldreport.org. You can catch the entire show. Just catch a segment that you missed, and make sure you like us and recommend us. You can also follow Maury on Twitter at @mbeshlos.